And away we go, episode 1172 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. It is the day of the Washington Capitals 2025-2026 regular season opener. The Caps are home to the Boston Bruins on Wednesday night at 7:30. When you look at the NFL, MLB, the NBA, and the NHL, it is the NHL that has the longest season, October to June, in terms of the regular season and postseason. There are just 3 months per year in which there are no regular season or postseason NHL games: July, August, and September. The NHL season is long, really long. It is a marathon. Where will the Caps 2025-2026 season take us? An in-depth preview of the Caps 2025-2026 regular season is coming up, as we'll speak with Capitals insider Tarik El-Bashir of Monumental Sports Network. And among the many items that Tarik will get into will be whether this season is winger Alex Ovechkin's final NHL season. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. This is a two-guest installment of the pod. Next segment, a conversation with the radio play-by-play announcer of the Washington Commanders, Bram Weinstein. Bram's going to cover a lot of ground. He'll address why and how he is surprised by a number of things with the Commanders so far this season, what he makes of the Jekyll-and-Hyde nature of the defense, why the defensive line is much improved, why he's optimistic about cornerback Marshon Lattimore, what to make of quarterback Jayden Daniels' performance in the 27-10 win at the Los Angeles Chargers this past Sunday, whether Jacory Croskey-Merritt now is the Commanders' certified RB1, whether receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. is the team's offensive MVP so far this season, the truth about what's going on with left guard Brandon Coleman, and more. Bram Weinstein, next segment on the Commanders. Before we get to some feedback, a Goldilocks pick for you. Goldilocks, my picks for the FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region. We actually have a game on Wednesday night. Liberty at UTEP, Wednesday night at 8. Each team this season is 1-4 overall, including 0-1 in Conference USA. Liberty and UTEP are two of the worst offensive teams in the 136-team FBS. Liberty is number 117 in offensive efficiency per ESPN. UTEP is number 133 in offensive efficiency per ESPN. The consensus line per Action Network for this game as of Tuesday morning was Liberty minus 2.5. I'll take UTEP plus the 2.5. But man, you are a real sicko if you're betting this game. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. From Johnny Saturday on X on Deebo Samuel, writes Johnny, so much for being washed. Thank you for that, Johnny. We on Monday's show, episode 1170, and on Tuesday's show, episode 1171, talked a good bit about Deebo, who the Commanders got via trade with the San Francisco 49ers this past March. Got him for a mere 5th-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. He and the win at the Chargers was tremendous. 8 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown on 11 targets. He drew a key 17-yard defensive pass interference penalty. No carries. He played on 78% of the Commanders' offensive snaps. He, for the game, had an overall grade per Pro Football Focus of 80.6. That's really good. PFF grades are on a scale of 0 to 100. 60 is average. Deebo is having a really good season. He appears to be motivated and in good shape, and I think that those things are about 3 things. A, pride. Deebo's coming off a down 2024 season. B, Deebo's contract. This is a contract season for him. The Commanders got him as he had 1 season left on a 3-year contract extension that was announced by the Niners on August 1st, 2022. This season is his age 29 season. And C, the Deebo Samuel whisperer, Wes Welker. This does not get talked about enough. The Commanders this past April hired former NFL receiver Wes Welker as personnel analyst. Welker got a lot out of Deebo during Welker's 3 seasons as Niners receivers coach, 2019 through 2021. Those were Deebo's first 3 seasons with the Niners, his first 3 seasons in the NFL. Email from Stanley Evans on the Commanders' win at the Chargers. Right, Stanley. What's up, Al? Hope all is well with you and the family. Listening to DQ's locker room speech after the game said it all. He wanted that win. I don't think I've ever seen a post-game clip that had to be bleeped that many times. LOL. You could feel the fire. This one felt like a turning point, a springboard heading into the real grind of the season. At first, it gave me flashbacks to 2013, down 10-0 again for the second straight week, and JD5 did not look quite like himself early on. I honestly started wondering if the team brought him back too fast. Knee injuries can get worse quick, but man, 5 came alive and reminded everyone exactly who he is. That win felt fun. Reminded me of those Sundays last year when we just enjoyed the ride. Somewhere along the way, it felt like people forgot how special 5 is. The media started whispering about a sophomore slump. I think 5 is just getting started. Our last 2 draft classes are stepping up, and AP is sitting back, cool as ever, reminding everyone to relax. As long as 5 stays healthy, we've always got a shot. Thank you for the email, Stanley. It is so true. With Jayden Daniels, all things are possible. But regarding the Commanders' last 2 NFL draft classes showing positive signs, yeah, that's key. Of course, there's Jayden Daniels and there's cornerback Mikey Sainristil. They had good rookie seasons, but really good to see the improvement that we're seeing from other guys from that 2024 draft class. On offense, receiver Luke McCaffrey and tight end Ben Sinnott, certainly as a blocker. On defense, interior defensive lineman Johnny Newton and linebacker Jordan McGee. And yes, the 2024 draft class also includes left guard Brandon Coleman, who has been benched. But how about all of the contributions already from the 2025 draft class? Right tackle Josh Connerly Jr., cornerback Trey Amos, receiver Jalen Lane, and running back Jacory Croskey-Merritt. Now, specific to McCaffrey, really good stuff from head coach Dan Quinn during his day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon. We, during that presser, had this exchange between Commanders insider Howard Fenrich of the Associated Press and Quinn.
I wanted to ask you about Luke McCaffrey, and where would you say the greatest area of growth you've seen from him in his second year? And was there maybe a particular moment in training camp or in a practice or in a game that stuck out to you and kind of signaled, okay, maybe this is a guy who's in a different place than he was as a rookie?
Yeah, and I thought coming into it, I felt the experience of the route running and all the technique that goes with that, Howard, first. Coming in from him, with his background at quarterback, almost seeing too much. But then he really got into the details at receiver, at the technique, at the specific routes. But there's one thing that separates him, Howard, and I think that he has and he can feel it, like it is this competitive spirit. In a game 2 weeks ago, I saw him catch a touchdown pass and then go down and cover a kick and be in on a tackle. And I think that speaks to just the competitor he is. So yesterday, had a kickoff return out to the 40. Bill had a long run that I thought he had a fantastic block, towards the end on the sideline when he came back out to the right. And then we showed that in the team meeting onto the field post today. So 3 different plays, one on teams, one on the blocking downfield, and one on the pass. And a lot of it wasn't, designed, unusual or tricky, Howard. It was just honestly just going out and just competing, and he really stands himself apart into that way. And he's one of our most consistent guys in that department, and it definitely keeps showing itself.
I enjoyed that from Dan Quinn. Luke McCaffrey is contributing in so many ways. Pass catcher, blocker on offense, kickoff returner, and coverage on special teams. Very nice words there from Quinn on McCaffrey. If you are a Commanders fan, check out bgobsession.com, an outstanding site for Commanders conversation. The Sons of Washington forum on bgobsession.com is tremendous. BG Obsession, or BGO, has been going strong since 2009. No politics, just friendly and passionate discussion about the Commanders and more. Great contests, game day chats, and camaraderie. Both old school and new school fans are welcome. Visit and join BGO at bgobsession.com. bgobsession.com, home to your burgundy and gold obsession. Week 6 of the NFL's 2025 regular season is set to begin with an all-NFC East primetime game and end with a primetime game featuring an NFC East team. The 4-1 Philadelphia Eagles at the 1-4 New York Giants on Thursday Night Football this Thursday night at 8:15, and the 3-2 Washington Commanders versus the 2-2 Chicago Bears at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland on Monday Night Football this Monday night at 8:15, although that game is one of two NFL games this Monday night, as we have the 4-1 Buffalo Bills at the 2-2 Atlanta Falcons this Monday night at 7:15. But Commanders-Bears this Monday night, of course, a rematch of the Hail Noah game. The Hail Noah, we will never forget it. Quarterback Jayden Daniels, walk-off, 1st and 10, 52-yard shotgun Hail Mary touchdown bomb to receiver Noah Brown in the Commanders' 18-15 walk-off win over the Chicago Bears at Northwest Stadium last October 27th. Here was the Commanders' radio call, Bram Weinstein and London Fletcher on WBIG.
Bears at 8 deep, 4 of them at the goal line. They bring 3. Daniels backing up. He's just going to have to let one fly. Goes to the right side. Steps away from the defenders. Gives himself some time. Now steps up, fires. Heads towards the end zone. It is...
That's like a grand slam in the third inning of a World Series. Yes, go, baby!
The ball popped up into the air, right into the arms of Noah Brown. Jayden Daniels extended the play over and over and over.
Walk-off touchdown!
What a call, what a moment, and I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast the radio play-by-play announcer of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein. Also, he is the host of the Bram Weinstein Show, which you can listen to as a podcast and watch on YouTube and can hear on ESPN 630 DC, and he is the owner of Empire Media. You can follow him on X at RealBramW. Hey, Bram, how are you?
Hey, Al. Been a while. How you doing?
Doing well. Great to talk to you. You're right. It has been a long time. You've been the radio voice of the Commanders since the start of the 2020 season. What from your time calling games for the team is your favorite moment? Is it the Hail Noah or something else?
It's hard to top a Hail Mary because it never happened in the franchise's history. But my favorite moment actually from last year was the Cincinnati game. The pass from Jayden Daniels to Terry McLaurin, it was the coming out party for the team. It was a preposterous play. And I think it was like the moment when I realized we had a very different thing going on here. We had a very different quarterback. It was that play really for me that was the most memorable. I've been fortunate to have a lot of really fun ones, like, we got to play Tom Brady in the playoffs in front of nobody. It was an unusual, first season. Last year was really, really special with the way that they won so many games at the end of the year. But the Cincinnati game is my favorite of all of them.
This game against the Bears marks the start of a stretch in which 3 out of 4 games for the Commanders are night games, so home to the Bears on Monday Night Football this Monday night, October 18th at 8:15, at the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday afternoon, October 19th at 4:25, at the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football on October 27th at 8:15, and home to the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football on November 2nd at 8:20. Does Bram Weinstein prefer calling night games or day games?
The night games are just hard because you're just anxious all day and you want to get to them, but they're fun because they're such high profile. So, I'd say, I'm so amped up to do them that I would rather them kick off at 1:00 and not wait until the end of the day. But the showcase part of it is so cool. And just the night element is so cool. I think it amplifies everything. So it's fun to be part of that. It's a lot. We knew this when the schedule came out, that this was a lot. They're going to showcase them. They are the NFL IT team. And this schedule, like now that we're in it, like not only is it like 3 of the next 4, whatever it is, at night, we're coming back from LA. So like I'm still kind of recovering from taking a red eye back, and here we are in the middle of the week, and we do have an extra day, and it's going to be a night game, and yeah, we're all going to sleep in our beds, but then we have a short week to go to Dallas. That's not a short trip, and they're going to turn around and play a night game again. Like, just from the human body experience, this is going to be rough on everybody, including the team, for like the next month to try to navigate this and get to a finish line. And there is none. We're not playing a 1:00 game until December. So this was really cool when this all came out. But in like realistic terms of trying to navigate a season, we're in the part that gets really, really hard, I think, for everybody.
Has anything about the Commanders so far this season especially surprised you?
So a lot, actually. This has been really strange. Typically, I think I have a pretty good feel, like I'm around it all the time. You'd think I'd have a pretty good feel. The way they've won games and the way they've lost games have surprised me this year. Like that part has not been predictable to me. Training camp was, I think, a touch surprising that the offense was as ineffective in practice and to whatever degree the preseason games, but just largely in practice, it wasn't really clicking. And I like to try to attribute a lot of that to Terry McLaurin was doing the hold in. Noah Brown was hurt. They were trying out all these different receivers. They got beat up on the offensive line. They never had their group together, and it showed like during practice. And so I kind of felt like the defense, which looked gangbusters during the preseason, was going to kind of carry the team until the offense kind of finds its way. And I'm hoping maybe that over the last couple of weeks, the offense has really actually started to find its way, and it's really ready to take off now that Jayden is back and healthy. But the defense, surprisingly, has had a couple of really poor outings and then turned around and had a really good one. And it's against a team that does have explosive plays. And the week before, they played a team that seemingly wasn't seeing it very well, wasn't executing very well, and got lit up. So, like, this has been unpredictable, I think would be the best way I could put it. Like, sometimes you just know you're playing the wrong team at the wrong time. Or in the case of the Chargers, I actually thought we were playing the right team at the right time. And the matchup really set up for them. But the way that they've won and lost their games this year, to me, has been a little more unpredictable than I thought it would be.
So the Commanders' defense has been crazy. When it has been good, it has been great. When it has been bad, it has been awful. What do you make of this high variance nature of the defense?
That's the thing here. I think it's been on offense too, actually. I'll answer your question, but like even on offense, I actually figured with the addition of Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel that there would be an opening for the team to be a more prolific passing team. And that's clearly not what their identity is going to be whatsoever, so that's a surprise. And then with the defense, I agree with you. It has been up and down. The coaches, and I believe them, especially on the Atlanta game, they took way too many chances, got out of the scheme. Frankly, I'm not really totally sure what exactly the strategy was. I think that they were dropping back against Penix because he seemed to have gotten confused against Carolina. And I think they were hoping that if they did some faux pressure and potentially win with 4, which they didn't, but potentially did that they could induce him to throw the ball in places they didn't want him to throw it to. And he did not do that. And then they never really adjusted to it. And then as they were putting it, people were putting capes on and they were guessing and trying to make plays. And then it all just kind of fell apart. And similarly against Green Bay, the two things that kind of stand out to me about those two performances, which are the two where the defense didn't play very well, is Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs to a lesser degree, but really good pass catching, explosive running backs who can catch the ball, and really good athletic tight ends. present a problem for this defense. This is why I really like their matchup this past week. Marion Hampton might become a good pass-catching running back. He's not that right now. He's really a straightforward runner, and they don't have an overly athletic tight end. So it eliminated what seems to me to this point to be the problems that Washington has defensively in coverage. And so how they're going to go about fixing that, do they have the right personnel to fix that? I don't know. But when they do play teams that don't feature players like that, they seem to have better outcomes just in general. The Atlanta game to me really stands out as I just think strategically they were beaten, and they had a couple of elite athletes at positions they have a hard time covering in the first place that got them. They executed really well. And then put on top, they're hearing it for 3 weeks that they don't have a turnover, and they're trying to make turnovers and forgetting to tackle people or guessing on routes. And all of a sudden it's big play after big play after big play. I think it just fell apart. And so I really liked the bounce back largely that they had outside of maybe the first quarter, largely that they had this week. But I do believe that they got a very favorable matchup and they took advantage of it.
The defensive line was arguably the Commanders' biggest weakness last season, but the defensive line is arguably the team's biggest strength this season. What are you seeing with the D-line?
I thought the Kinlaw signing, I don't know why people went so crazy about it, Al. Like they looked at the number and the salary and they thought like, well, why is he getting this? And then I'm like, I'm even looking at that going, you know that Milton Williams and Osa Odigizua got double what he got. So it's not like they overpaid him. And if it is true that you haven't seen the best of him, and that's at least through 5 games been obvious now, then they got a deal on him. Payne's in a contract year, and they went out of their way to build a tremendous amount of depth that's getting tested because of the injuries, Dietrich Wise, Javante Jean-Baptiste. But they have a lot of depth, a lot more depth than they had a year ago, and they are much larger and more stout on the edges. I thought for sure, and this is the one thing about the defense is totally played out. They're a way better run defense than they were a year ago, and not even close. Like this, and they've faced some serious rushing attacks. And they are way, way, way better in that realm. It's the pass defense that is semi-surprising to me. So no, I'm not surprised by the D line. Now, do they have finishers? Do they have the type of guys that make plays that turn games upside down and finish games out at the end? Like they still don't have their TJ Watt maybe on this team, but I do like them as a whole. I like them, and I like the group that they have.
Much more with Bram Weinstein in moments. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, it will fight for you and win for you. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the NACE Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace, he is a big Commanders fan and a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the NACE Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. The NACE Law Group fights for victims of all kinds of situations, including victims of errors made during diagnosis, during surgery, or with medication, victims of injuries caused by dangerous medications or medical devices, as well as defective auto parts, victims of accidents involving cars, trucks, bikes, or motorcycles, victims of deceptive trade practices and false advertising, heck, victims of shady lawyers. If your attorney acts in bad faith, is unethical in his or her counsel, or is negligent in his or her work, you could have a claim for legal malpractice. The NACE Law Group has represented corporate clients throughout the region. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the NACE Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. We're talking with the radio play-by-play announcer of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein. It was really good to see cornerback Marshon Lattimore play well in the win at the Chargers. He needed that. Are you bullish on him moving forward?
I am. I think, I was really, the reason why I was really bullish, not only just about the depth of the D line and just kind of the front, was I thought Marshon, Amos, who looks the part and has played the part, and Sandra still would give them the opportunity to play the style of defense that they wanted to play, so that if winning with 4 isn't happening, they can feel free to rush more, bring more pressure packages, and trust the guys on the back end. With Marshon, there's good and bad. He's an extremely aggressive player, and I would argue at times too aggressive. And it's like he wants to be in a street fight with everybody. And so there's going to be good and bad that comes with it. Like, he's going to get penalties. He's going to induce some bad plays. And in the case of the Atlanta game, jumped a couple of routes he shouldn't have jumped and guessed a little bit too much. It all comes from a good place. This past week, I thought Quan Martin didn't play very well in Atlanta. I thought Sandra still, although he had an interception, didn't play very well in Atlanta either. All 3 of them had a huge bounce back this past week. And I think you see the physicality of Marshon. He was actively involved in run support. He was aggressively tackling. And I think more than anything, he's just healthier now than he was a year ago. I think you're just seeing a much different version of him. But no, I'm like, is he the corner he was 3-4 years ago when he's a Pro Bowler? Probably not. I'd have to go back and watch, when he was at his peak with the Saints. But I think he's better than what he's shown. He had said something this summer to us. I think it was, if I remember right, the joint practice in New England. And it stuck with me. I think that's where he did. And he said, I haven't played very much the last couple of years, and I got to get my technique back. And I think that is really important to understand. He's missed a lot of time over the last couple of years, but he looks healthy again. And maybe these first, month or so, because he didn't play in the preseason either, has been an opportunity for him to get some reps back, get his technique back. And I'm not as worried about him as a lot of the fan base is. I think in the end, there are going to be things that go along with having a player like this, namely penalties. And he's like any corner. He's going to get beat every once in a while. But his kind of aggressive nature, I think, fits the aggressive style that this team likes to play with. And I'm not overly concerned about him.
The QB1, Jayden Daniels, he in the win at the Chargers, returned from his 2-game absence caused by the left knee injury. What's your evaluation of how he did?
It took a minute, it took a minute. And I think for him, if he was being honest, it took a minute for him too. He was a little slow on a couple releases early. He was a little slow vacating the pocket early. Is that about, the knee or the brace, or just getting back out there and getting your sea legs again? I don't know. But by the time the second quarter rolled around, he seemed fine. And then he had what I thought were really, since the beginning of the summer, the first glimpses of what last year was with him. That throw to Luke McCaffrey, the seeing him practice a celebration in a timeout before they're going to go for a 4th down play and then completing it. That's him from a year ago. So it took a minute. But yeah, no, he actually showed me some of those moments that we got accustomed to from last year.
Is Jacory Croskey-Merritt now the certified RB1 for the Commanders, or could you see the team still going with a running back by committee approach?
I can see committee, but I don't know how in the world you would move forward without giving him more carries than everybody else. He gets better and better by the week. I was, in the spring, you see guys on tape and everything. I didn't know anything about him, obviously. Who did? He barely played last year because of an eligibility issue. And, and also he's, playing somewhere we're not going to see him play anyway. And, then he shows up in camp and he's way bigger than you think he is. When you see him in person. And London Fletcher was talking about this on the broadcast the other day. I was talking to him afterwards too. He goes, I haven't seen somebody at this age with the kind of patience that he has. He's not scared to be physical. He's extremely elusive. He's patient, and he calls his own number, and his instincts are pretty good. I don't know how this doesn't get better and better and better from here. And I don't see a path to them having him be number 3 on the carries any given week. The thing with him that they want to see improve is the not carrying the ball stuff. It's the off the ball stuff, pass protection, maybe better routes. And maybe we'll start to see that develop a little bit more. They want to trust him in all the other scenarios to have him on the field more. My concern is he didn't play very much, and he is a rookie. And so how many touches can you really give him before you would expect his body to really start to feel it? But right now, they've kind of managed this through, almost a third of the season. And that was certainly a wake-up call breakout game. And I don't think we're going backwards from here with him.
Receiver Deebo Samuel Sr., is he the Commanders' offensive MVP for this season so far?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. At this point, they've asked him to do everything. The team also leads the league in kickoff return average, and he was a big part of that. He will go back to that, by the way, at some point. I think with McLaurin and Brown out, there's so much of the load that they're putting on him on offense that they've decided to take that off his plate. And actually, Luke McCaffrey's done a very nice job for them in returning kicks, but he will be back there at some point. But yeah, I mean, of all the people we talked about who didn't practice during the summer, he was there the whole time. And I think you see the connection with the two quarterbacks, specifically with Jayden. But like I think he's become, that's probably the best way to put it. MVP. They've asked him to do literally everything. They haven't really unlocked him down the field much yet. They haven't really showed that yet. And he's been everything I think they could have possibly asked for. And, it's good and bad. They made him do a show me deal by just reworking the 1-year contract. They're going to have to deal with him again in the offseason, but I'm sure they'll gladly do it if this is what the result's going to be throughout the season.
Jayden Daniels in the win at the Chargers had 26 pass attempts with 23 official targets. 11 of the 23 targets went to Deebo Samuel. No other Commanders player had more than 2 targets, with 2 of the team's top 3 receivers in Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown out due to injury. Man, Deebo truly is the number 1 receiver, and it isn't even close.
Yeah, well, he is. Who's the other number 1 receiver? I mean, that's the big question. Until Terry and Noah come back, who is? So depth at that position is interesting, but they found a way. I think the other thing that really stood out to me was throughout the summer, because Terry was in the hold-in and Noah Brown was hurt, and they were testing people out, like either whether it was veterans or Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane or whoever on the outside, and they didn't really find the right people they were looking for. The ball kept just going to, fantasy managers. I would tell them, I'm like, Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz, that's it. That's where the ball's going. Interestingly, in this one, in Jayden's return, Ertz was only targeted a couple of times, really actually wasn't the kind of the blanket that he's been for Jayden. Deebo's starting to become that. I think what will be interesting to see how it develops is Terry should be back sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's this week or not. We'll find out a lot more later this week, but he will be back sooner rather than later. Where does he fit in a target share in an offense that is developing this way, that's really run first, that's really, I think at times now they run the ball more than they throw the ball in a game. Deebo clearly is being schemed up to be put in position to get a large target share. We know what Ertz and the tight ends mean for them. Terry, on its face is someone who should be getting 10 targets a game. Let's see how that develops this year and how they utilize him once he does come back.
What has happened with Brandon Coleman really is something. The Commanders took him in the 3rd round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of TCU. Coleman was the Commanders' starting left tackle for much of last season. He was supposed to be the team's starting left guard for this season, but being the starting left guard for each of the team's first 2 games of this regular season, now has been healthy and active for each of the last 3 games. And he hasn't just been benched. He has been made inactive. What's going on with Coleman?
Similarly with the defensive line, the offensive line is way deeper than it was a year ago, way deeper. Chris Paul had an outstanding, underrated camp. And with Coleman, he made the transition. It was a transition from tackle to guard, and he got injured again in the preseason, and he missed a lot of time again. And it was under the radar because the offense wasn't practicing very much together, and they weren't playing practically at all in the preseason games together. And Chris Paul, as the summer was going along, he has always been someone that everyone talks about his strength, that he's probably one of the strongest players on the team. What they saw a jump with him was versatility, that he can actually move a little bit more than he did. He's gotten himself in a different level of shape. So this became a much more competitive spot that I think any of us were probably talking about or really noticing, but the coaches did. And when things kind of started a little slowly, and Coleman's been banged up again, with a shoulder injury, I'm not blaming him for that. Just it is what it is. It gave Paul an opportunity. And it wasn't like Brandon Coleman walked in as a Pro Bowl left tackle switching to left guard. He was a player who was transitioning from tackle to guard. And so I just think it's just a competitive situation that was occurring. And the guy that's won the job for now is there. And I talked to Dan Quinn about this a week or two ago, and he's like, the story's not over for him. Like things can change, and we're not down on him. This is about competition, and Chris Paul's the guy right now.
The radio play-by-play announcer of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein. Bram, thanks. All the best.
Thanks, Al.
All right, good to catch up with Bram. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home? Whether it is time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, a gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. So come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: a gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate. And for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed because Nova Fireplace and Stove takes pride in every flame that is lit and every customer who is served. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You can also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship, and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. The Washington Capitals 2025-2026 regular season begins on Wednesday night. Caps versus the Boston Bruins at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night at 7:30. There is perhaps no stat for a Washington, D.C. area team that's more impressive than this. The Caps have made the Stanley Cup playoffs in 34 of the last 42 seasons. A remarkable run. Now, the Caps have been eliminated in a first or second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 31 of those 34 all-time postseason appearances. So the exceptions are the 1990, 1998, and 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. So the Caps last season made the Stanley Cup playoffs but were eliminated in the second round. But still, no team in the D.C. area makes the playoffs as consistently as the Caps do. And also with the Caps is this: their retool has worked. They have avoided having to do what so many thought that the team would have to do: rebuild. The Caps have made the postseason in each of the last two seasons, off missing the postseason for the 2022-2023 season. The Caps last season became the first NHL team since the 1979-1980 season to go from being the last team to clinch a playoff spot the previous season to being the first team to clinch a playoff spot the following season. The Caps retool has worked, so now what? I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Capitals insider Tarik El-Bashir of Monumental Sports Network. He also is a rinkside reporter for the NHL on TNT. You can follow him on X at Tarik_El-Bashir. Tarik's connection for this conversation, unfortunately, is not the best, but he's a good man. He's going to give us a few minutes in the midst of a busy time for him, and we appreciate that very much. Hey, Tarik, how are you?
Doing great, Al. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to have you on. The NHL's 2025-2026 season is the age 40 season for the greatest player in Caps history, the Great Eight, winger Alex Ovechkin. Also is the final season of a 5-year, $47.5 million contract to which Ovi was re-signed in July 2021. There is a sense that this season probably is Ovi's final NHL season. Personally, I'm not so sure of that. I mean, I think that how this season goes will determine whether this is his final NHL season, but you know him and the situation well. Do you believe that this season is Ovi's final NHL season?
Al, I would say probably is too strong a word, simply because we don't know how the season is going to go. My feeling in talking to Alex and talking to people around him is he wants to see how the season unfolds. This is obviously the last year of his contract. He's 40 years old. He's already had a small injury situation early in training camp. Father Time catches up to everyone. But let's not forget, this guy at 39 years old scored 44 goals in 65 games after coming back from a broken leg. He still has some goals in that stick. He still can play. And something tells me that his love for the game, his affection for this area and for this team, and he loves his little boys being able to watch him perform on the grand stage, because they can truly enjoy it now. They're old enough to know what their dad does. I don't think he's hurrying to the exit. I think if he has another good year and his body feels good and the team is winning and he feels like that window is open once again for contention, I could see him sign a short-term deal after this season. But that's a lot of ifs, right? Is his health good? Is the team competitive, which we think it will be? And where is his drive at? Something tells me that we are going to find out, whether by his own words or just by how things are looking when we come back from the All-Star break, what direction things are starting to trend.
This is season number 2 for the Caps, with the front office setup of Brian McClellan as president of hockey operations and Chris Patrick as senior vice president and general manager. This is season number 3 for Spencer Carberry as Caps head coach. McClellan, Patrick, and Carberry, do you think that they think that the Caps are a legitimate Stanley Cup title contender?
I feel like management believes this is a team very similar to last year's team, and that they are good enough to be a playoff team. Simply, if you look at how they approached the offseason, they went after one of the bigger fish on the market, Nikolai Ehlers. They didn't get him. He went to Carolina. I think that threw a little bit of a wrench in their plan. That said, I think if you look at the way the Capitals operate, and if you look at just the last couple of years in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the teams that went far, I'm thinking about the Florida Panthers from last year. 2 of their biggest impact players on their run to a second straight Stanley Cup weren't on their roster at the start of the year. Seth Jones and Brad Marchand. So I feel like the Capitals believe they have a good team. I know they have saved some cap space in the event that there is an opportunity to add an impact player at the deadline. And I think that's how they're approaching the season. We're good. And if we have the opportunity to get better, to get a player that can put us over the top, we are going to aggressively pursue that player later in the year. I think gone are the days of managers looking at their team on day 1 and going, well, this is what we got. I think a lot of managers now look at their team and go, well, this is what we have for right now. Let's make sure we have the flexibility to add throughout the season. And then come December, January, we'll evaluate what we have and whether we need to make a move to make ourselves better.
We're previewing the Capitals' 2025-2026 regular season with Caps insider Tarik El-Bashir of Monumental Sports Network. You look at the Caps' 2025 offseason, not a lot of activity, mainly because the Caps last season signed so many pending free agents to contract extensions. So the major moves for the Caps in the 2025 offseason, they on June 26th announced having traded a second-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft and a sixth-round pick in the 2027 NHL Draft to the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers for forward Justin Sourdif. And the Caps on June 28th, what was day 2 of the 2025 NHL Draft, announced having signed Sourdif to a 2-year, $1.65 million contract. Also for the Caps on June 28th, they announced having traded defenseman Chase Priskie and a 4th-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft to the Minnesota Wild for defenseman Declan Chisholm and a 6th-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. And the Caps on June 30th announced having signed Chisholm to a 2-year, $3.2 million contract contract. The Caps on July 1st, what was day one of free agency in the NHL's 2025 offseason, announced having re-signed defenseman Martin Fehervary to a 7-year, $42 million contract extension that'll begin with the 2026-2027 season, his age 27 season, and the Caps on July 3rd announced having re-signed unrestricted free agent winger Anthony Beauvillier to a 2-year, $5.5 million contract. What stands out to you about the Caps' 2025 offseason?
I think they added depth, but they also made sure to keep open some spots for their young prospects. You can't keep drafting players in the first round and then every year telling them, sorry, we signed a 30-year-old who's gonna take your spot. Now, I know I said a few minutes ago they aggressively pursued Ehlers and didn't get him. That said, I do feel like adding Justin Sordiff, good depth move, a player they have been interested in for a while, 23 years old, going to play on the fourth line, has already shown that he fits very well with Nick Dowd and Brandon Duhaime. I think that's going to be a very good fourth line once again. Declan Chisholm is a better version of Alex Alexiev. He's going to probably be your extra. I'd imagine he's going to play more games than Alexiev did in the past couple of years. It's important to have a good number 7 defenseman. But the fact that they didn't panic when they did get Ehlers and go get someone out there tells me that they have some faith in the young players. They have some faith in their prospect pool, which has taken big leaps in recent years. It's actually a heck of a lot better than it was just 3 years ago. And so you're going to see some younger players, Ryan Leonard, Hendrix Lapierre. I think eventually we're going to see Vincent Iorio, the right shot defenseman. I know Ivan Miroshnichenko was sent back to Hershey, but that was more a function of him being able to be sent down without going through waivers. I think he is going to get some games this year. So we are going to find out a lot about the younger players in this organization and how close they are to helping this team. I think there's some pretty high-end players. I think Ryan Leonard's going to be a star. He's going to be a fan favorite. Is he going to be a 30 or 40 goal scorer? I don't know. I don't want to put a limitation on him. I think he's going to be similar to like a TJ Oshie. I think fans are going to love him. He's always in everyone's face. He plays hard. He dives head first or into the play. He's going to score goals. He's going to be abrasive, hard to play against. Fans are going to love him. And Hendrix Lapierre, I feel like he might be a little off schedule. I think he's taken a little longer to develop than maybe he or the Capitals would have liked. But his preseason, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. That was tied for the league lead in the preseason. I think he has doubled down. He is laser focused. I think he's ready to take that next step, and I think he's going to be a very good player for this team.
It's funny, the Caps' 2025 offseason was their first offseason in forever in which there were no major developments at goaltender. The Caps this past January 27th announced having signed Logan Thompson to a 6-year, $35.1 million contract extension, and the Caps this past March 3rd announced having signed Charlie Lindgren to a 3-year, $9 million contract extension. Thompson clearly is the number 1 goaltender. Lindgren clearly is the number 2 goaltender. The Caps' much improved goal scoring last regular season was incredible. The Caps in the 2023-2024 season made the Stanley Cup playoffs despite having a regular season goal differential of minus 37, worst regular season goal differential for an NHL playoff team in the league's salary cap era, which started with the 2005-2006 season. But the Caps last season made the Stanley Cup playoffs with a regular season goal differential of plus 56, tied for the 3rd best goal differential in the NHL. The Caps in the 2023-2024 regular season scored just 220 goals. The Caps last regular season scored 288 goals. What do you expect from the Caps from a goal scoring standpoint in the 2025-2026 regular season?
Yeah, I would say the national media and the analytics guys bring up some good points. There were 10 skaters and 1 goaltender, Logan Thompson, who had career years. Expecting that many players to put up career numbers again is probably a bit of a stretch. They didn't add much, as we've already discussed in the offseason. They added some depth. They didn't add scoring. So something tells me that maybe the scoring will go back a little bit. I think Spencer Carberry's ability to adjust on the fly, he's a very smart coach, will help if let's say they aren't getting quite the level of finish that they did last year. But you're right. I mean, offensively, they were one of the best teams in the league last year. I would imagine this year they're going to have a little bit more balance in their game. But we'll see. These aren't like. I mean, I guess Alex, is 40 years old, so he had a big season with 44 goals. The other guys who took big steps, I'm thinking about Dylan Strome, I'm thinking about Alexei Protas, I'm thinking about Connor McMichael. Those are still relatively young players, and there is more to their game. I mean, they can continue to get better, but I think expecting so many players to have a career year might be a bit of a stretch. But you know what? Look, the Caps won the Eastern Conference last year. That's a great feather in your cap. It's not indicative of how far you're going to go in the playoffs. Getting into the playoffs and playing well when you get there is what's important. So, whether they're top 3 in goals for this year, I think, that's always great. That said, for me, what I'm looking for, Al, is going to be how is this team playing in March and going into the postseason? Are they healthy? Are guys starting to ramp up as opposed to kind of staying even or going backwards? I think last year, obviously they fell in the second round to the Carolina Hurricanes. I think as much as the OV chase for 895 inspired them, I think the run up to it and then maybe the celebration afterwards was a lot. And they don't have that distraction this year. They can just focus on playing hockey. So, again, I think the national media is a little skeptical of the Capitals, but the delta between their top guys and their bottom guys is incredibly tight. And I think that's what makes a team that can go deep into the playoffs.
Caps insider Tarik El-Bashir of Monumental Sports Network. Tarik, thanks. All the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Al.
All right, let's do more on the Caps in moments. Some notable comments from head coach Spencer Carberry on Tuesday on Alex Ovechkin. But if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. More now on the Caps with their 2025-2026 regular season opener on Wednesday night. Caps home to the Boston Bruins Wednesday night at 7:30. We from Tarik El-Bashir got good perspective on whether this season is Alex Ovechkin's final NHL season. We on Tuesday during head coach Spencer Carberry's post-practice session with reporters had this back and forth.
Have you seen anything different from Alex this year mindset-wise compared to last year when the record was kind of hanging over him?
It's a good question. I am not, though. No. Yeah, like if anything is a little bit less significant or no, not at all.
Or more. No.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I think he's been normal Alex from the 2 years that I've been here, from a preparation, from in meetings, his aura and just his energy and enthusiasm every morning. Yeah, it's been very much of the same. Even after breaking the record, and he's already looking at 900. Like, hopefully that happens tomorrow night.
Yeah, don't forget how good Alex Ovechkin was last season in his age 39 season. He, for the 2024-2025 regular season, was tied for number 3 in the NHL in goals with 44 and broke Wayne Gretzky's NHL record for career regular season goals, despite missing 16 games due to a fractured left fibula that he suffered last November 18th. Ovi in the Caps' 5-game win over the Montreal Canadiens in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs had a team-high 4 goals and an assist. But yes, he and the Caps' 5-game loss to the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round of the playoffs had just 1 point, which was a 5-on-3 power play goal in the Caps' 5-2 loss at the Hurricanes in Game 4 on May 12th. We have had conflicting intel on whether the 2025-2026 season will be Ovechkin's final NHL season. This all started on May 29th when Capitals Public Relations on X put up the following post, quote, "No decision has been made on Alex Ovechkin's future following the 2025-26 NHL season." An email was sent from an individual with the corporate sales department that mistakenly alluded to next year being Alex Ovechkin's final year, and quote, Then Hockey News Hub on May 30th on X highlighted that Ovechkin's wife had recently told a Russian media outlet, AIF, quote, Alexander still has a contract for a year, so we will play the next season and then fly back to live in Moscow, to our homeland. We will stay in Russia, yes, end quote. Then RG.org on June 1st had this, quote, despite recent comments and speculation regarding his possible retirement, Washington Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin has not decided on his NHL future following next season. A source close to Ovechkin confirmed to RG Media that Ovechkin has not made any decision regarding if next year will be his last in the NHL and that he will make that choice when his contract ends, end quote. As I said earlier, I think how this season goes will determine whether this is his final NHL season, but we should enjoy him while we have him, because at this point in his career, no guarantees about how much longer we'll have him. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1173. We'll provide you with more on the Washington Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, we'll discuss the Washington Capitals as they on Wednesday night have their 2025-2026 regular season opener, home to the Boston Bruins at 7:30. And on Thursday's show, we'll discuss Liberty football. The Flames, they are at UTEP Wednesday night at 8. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
Bears at 8 deep. 4 at the goal line. They bring 3. Daniels backing up. He's just going to have to let one fly. Goes to the right side. Steps away from the defenders. Gives himself some time. Now steps up, fires. Heads towards the end zone. It is...